thank you so much again for the time. So I really want to make sure I'm respecting your time that we blocked out today. Just to give you a quick rundown, it'll roughly be just about 10 minutes. You can talk a little bit about yourself, kind of your journey, and kind of how you got here today. And then what would you say to your younger self? Not saying that you change anything that you've done, maybe just some advice you'd have loved to hear back then, or maybe even looking back since you're 17, are there any experiences or lessons you've learned that you like to relay on to other 17-year-olds?
Okay. Okay, great. Yeah. So how did I get here today? By relationship. Virtually all of my activity as a business professional is guided by the relationships that I have with people. And so my business, it's a referral-based business, and I help small business people make connections with other small business people in a way that they can discover if they have synergies to potentially work together. And a lot of times that comes from sharing clients with each other when the need is there. In this particular case, how I got here today is your dad and I have a relationship. And because it's been an honorable relationship, when he asks for an extra favor or says, hey, would you connect with my daughter? Of course, he's earned the right to ask for that sort of thing. And I like to reciprocate back to people that help me. So I think that's the great answer for how I got here today.
Yeah.
In terms of what I would say to my younger self, 17 years old, I think that, and I've spent a little bit of time thinking about that because I didn't want to give you just a generic answer. But here's what I would say to my younger self, knowing the world that we live in today. The world we live in today is more of an instant gratification type world. We would like to push a button, and as soon as that button is pushed, have a result. Or pull a lever and hope that after we pull the lever, we have a result. And that might be okay when it comes to putting a bowl of soup into a microwave and hitting a button for 1 minute and being ready to have a nice warm bowl of soup. But when it comes to business and when it comes to personal growth and development, when it comes to achieving big things, most breakthroughs do not happen by pushing a button or doing something once. The breakthroughs come from discipline and recommending and recognizing that it's the incremental, almost invisible improvements that we're making in ourselves over and over and over and over again that then create that instant push button person in ourselves that we were hoping that we would be. So most people, I think, especially when we're younger, the patience level might not be there. The big picture might not be there as much. And that's not blaming anybody just because they're young, but the reality is we know more as we move ahead. So I think it's wonderful that you're inquiring and collecting advice from people because to me, I think it's that incremental boring stuff that most people stay away from without realizing that really that's the most important thing we can do. It's that extra 0.5% or 1% improvement continually all the time that all of a sudden makes it so you're an instant success. And most people, when they see somebody who's very successful, they might just assume that that person was lucky, that their timing was good, that it was instant success. Most people that have earned a certain level of success, again, they earned it. And they'll tell you that it wasn't super easy, that it wasn't just crossing their fingers and everything worked out perfectly. It was a lot of discipline.
Yeah, that's really great. That's a really great point. I'm so glad that you are sharing that. Thank you so much. I am definitely the type of person I like to get things done the minute it happens. I'm like the lowest patience level that you could think of. But I think that's a really important point is kind of sticking it out and working hard even when you don't feel like it, even when it's hard and it's boring and it's not fun, to push through it and know that there is a bigger plan, a bigger picture, a bigger goal, a bigger reward down the line if you just kind of be patient and kind of stick through that. It's a really great point. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And to back that up just a little bit too, there are going to be disappointments in life. And there are going to be challenges that we're faced with that perhaps we don't ultimately get the result that we were looking for. And we've got to be honest evaluators of ourselves and ask, with more discipline, with more energy, can I get the result that I want? Or was I unrealistic and perhaps this struggle is showing me perhaps that maybe this is a road I shouldn't be walking down.
Yeah.
So it allows a person to either A, double down and work harder to get what they want, or it gives them an opportunity to say, hmm, maybe this isn't happening because it's really not properly aligned with who I am
Mhm.
as a person. So, at 51 years old, I've had a couple setbacks in life, couple challenges and struggles. And of course, none of us like that sort of stuff. We would all like things to be easy peasy, right? But
Mhm.
it really is those struggles and those challenges that give us the greatest opportunity for growth. So even though we might not like something that might be happening at that time, see if you can ask yourself, what's good in what's happening right now? What am I learning about myself right now? Because, know thyself. If you know who you are, then you'll be much better, because that old saying that says you can't pour from an empty cup is
Mhm.
absolutely true.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point. Thank you so much. You talk a little bit how your business is like referral based and relationship based. What do you think is a very, maybe not the most important, but a very important part in building relationships?
Yeah, so in building relationships, the most important part also parlays into the conversation we've already had, and that's having some patience.
Mm-hmm.
Again, sometimes when people are in a business relationship with somebody, they might they might be faster to be able to help that other business person than
Mm-hmm.
perhaps maybe that business person is able to reciprocate.
Mm-hmm.
And the last thing that we want to do is alienate a person who's not giving us back what we're hoping that we're receiving. We've given them, where's ours, right? So the reality is, I think that when it comes to relationship building, it's just like everything else. It's the concept of planting seeds with people and recognizing that every relationship that you have an opportunity to be like a relationship farmer with those seeds that you're planting with people.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it requires a little bit more love, a little bit more sunshine, a little bit more water to grow a certain plant than it might for another plant, right? So we've just
Mm-hmm.
got to recognize that everybody that we're planting seeds with is a unique individual. And
Yeah.
what we don't want to do is ask for things until we've provided enough value that we could just
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, I hope that you feel you're receiving value from our relationship. And I actually had an ask from you today. I noticed that you also know this other person on LinkedIn that I've been wanting to connect to. Would you be comfortable in making an introduction for me? Because sometimes people also need a little help on the ways that they can help you. So we need to
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just be direct and say, hey,
Yeah,
would you go to bat for me on this? And
definitely.
so to me, it's just recognizing that relationships are a lot like farming. Be patient. There's times to harvest, there's times to plant.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And so that's like a really easy to kind of grasp concept. That's an amazing point. I had another question. What do you think was the biggest lesson or a big lesson that you kind of learned from, and it's something that you still kind of practice or kind of impacts your life to this day?
Yeah, another great question. Samuk-san, I would say that really one thing that I think we're all vulnerable to are things called blind spots. Just like when you're driving in a car, you if you're not really looking completely around, there's a chance that when you change lanes, you might run somebody off the road.
Yeah.
Even with all these cameras that they have and little alert buttons in cars, as human beings, we don't have those little alert buttons in ourselves. We're not very aware of our own blind spots. So I know that I have blind spots. As much as I would like to think I'm all set and I know everything about myself, I don't. I know I have blind spots, and how we can keep ourselves from running relationships off the road is by also forming relationships with people that are honest with us, people that are perhaps maybe in the coaching space, that can be an impartial party to help you look at other ways people might be looking at you and your business, because you're going to look at it a certain way yourself as the person
Mm-hmm.
doing the work, right? You know what your intentions are, you know what you want to do, but maybe those things aren't translating as well to everybody else, right? So that might be a blind spot. You might be thinking that you're portraying things one way, but the world
Mm-hmm.
might be looking at it a different way.
Yeah.
So I think having people that help you identify your blind spots helps you just be a little bit more aware of other
Mhm.
approaches you might be able to take in relationships.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I've learned a lot, definitely a lot of great concepts, definitely about patience. I think that's a really important skill, and it's something, it's kind of my blind spot, something I should work on. Is there any last thing you'd kind of like to throw out there before we wrap it up?
Sure. The one thing that I would say is entrepreneurship, being your own business person, the freedoms in that are just so wonderful. But again, like everything else, the persistence, the patience, the passion, to be a small business person and an entrepreneur really requires an exceptional person to
Mm-hmm.
be successful at it. So, you know, read a lot, ask lots of questions, and work with people that help you identify your blind spots, and I'm sure everything will work out just fine. But for myself, being an entrepreneur just gives me so much freedom to fill my buckets. I encourage people to see if they can be entrepreneurs, but it is
Mm-hmm.
not for everybody either.
Yeah.
So it's okay to have a job somewhere and do something.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay
Yeah.
too, especially if you don't have a calling per se. But when you
Mm-hmm.
have a calling, answer that call.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, sharing so much great information, so many great concepts. I really appreciate it. It was very helpful.
Muxan, thanks so much for giving me an opportunity to share with
Sure.
you and your listening audience. You're doing great
Thank
stuff
you.
here.
Have a great day.
You're welcome. Bye bye.
Bye.